How good can Bol Bol get? After having somewhat of a rocky start to his NBA career, ever since joining the Orlando Magic and getting a bigger opportunity, Bol Bol has really played at a very high level. And a level that a lot of people expected him to play at when he was drafted. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports, I make opinionative NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Bol Bol was a very exciting prospect ever since high school. As high school, he was seen as a very unique talent, as a guy who was 7'3" that had the mobility and ball handling ability of a point guard. He was grabbing the rebound on one half of the court and taking the ball to the other half of the court by his own and dunking over players consistently. The ability that he had was certainly very intriguing, and due to that, he was one of the more highly touted prospects going into college. But unfortunately, after getting to college and going to Oregon, he got injured only 3 games into his college career, and that broken foot had him out for the entire season, and was still somewhat lingering when it came around to the NBA draft. Now, sometimes we see this with very talented college players, where even if they get injured in their only season playing in college, in that following year's NBA draft, they still get drafted highly. A perfect example of this is Kyrie Irving, as he only played a couple of games in college, but he still ended up getting drafted very highly in his year's draft. And of course, there are a couple other examples of this, but in Bol Bol's case, that injury really affected his draft stock, as before that injury he was projected to be a top 10, maybe a top 15 overall selection in the following season's draft, but after that injury he ended up being a mid to early round second round selection. And of course, as I said, the main reason for that wasn't his actual ability, it was those injury concerns. And the main concern about it was how would that foot injury affect his mobility going forward, because that mobility and ball handling ability of Bol Bol was certainly a huge reason for why he was so exciting. So if he didn't have that mobility anymore, or it was significantly affected, he wouldn't be nearly as effective. But after he got drafted with the Denver Nuggets, he didn't necessarily play all that much early on. As in his rookie season, he only played 7 games, averaging 5.7 points per game on 50% shooting from the field, 2.7 rebounds on 0.9 assists. But that rookie season for Bol Bol was a season to just recover and learn in the NBA. And in my opinion, at the time, the Denver Nuggets were the absolute perfect scenario for Bol Bol. A team that was already pretty good, and a team that he can already learn from really good players like Nikola Jokic, but also a team that was going to be very patient with him because they didn't necessarily need him right away. But the season following that, people expected Bol to get a much bigger opportunity and just play a lot better out there as well. But in his second season, he only played 32 games on the year, averaging 2.2 points per game on 43% shooting from the field, 0.8 rebounds on 0.2 assists. Of course, not a good season whatsoever, but I will say there were certain games where he was showing flashes of what he could potentially be consistently long term. And the season following that, he only played 14 games, averaging 2.4 points per game on 55% shooting from the field, 1.4 rebounds on 0.4 assists. Once again, not a good season whatsoever, but he did show certain flashes in certain possessions of certain games. And after those 3 seasons with the Denver Nuggets, people started to lose faith in Bol Bol. Of course, there still were people that believed in him long term due to that crazy ability that he does have, but he just wasn't getting much of an opportunity in Denver, and when he was playing, he was showing certain flashes, but he wasn't necessarily completely impressing. So after 3 seasons, the Nuggets decided to move on from him, and he went to the Orlando Magic. And similar to my opinion of it being a perfect situation for Bol Bol to go to the Denver Nuggets on draft day, I feel like it's a perfect situation for Bol Bol to go to the Orlando Magic at this point. The Magic are a team that are extremely young and still pretty early on into their rebuild. So a guy like Bol Bol would certainly get much more of an opportunity with the Orlando Magic as compared to basically any other team in the NBA. And so far early on into the season, that thought process has certainly come true. As on the year, he's already played 24 games, almost the most amount of games he's played in any other season of his career, and he's averaging almost 13 points per game on an incredible 61% shooting from the field, 7.7 rebounds on 1 assist per game as well. Now, these numbers are much more aligned with what people expected him to put up going into his rookie season or going going into his second season. And of course, I wouldn't necessarily say that he's the most consistent player at this point, but of course that's something that is expected considering this is the real first opportunity he's had in the NBA, or at least the first consistent opportunity that he's had. But there are certain games for him that he plays at a very, very high level and really shows what he could potentially be going forward long term. Like specifically in the game against the Indiana Pacers, he put up 22 points on very efficient shooting and 11 rebounds as well. Also the Brooklyn Nets game, he put up 24 points on very efficient shooting with 6 rebounds and 2 assists as well. And most recently against the Toronto Raptors, he put up 18 points on very efficient shooting and 7 rebounds. Just incredible games, and of course, as I mentioned, when you watch him out there, there's certainly something special about him. The biggest key at this point for Bol Bol would just be to continue working on his game going forward long term, but also the main thing would be health. That injury concern was always something that people were worried about Bol Bol, but at this point I would still say it's there, and in my opinion it's going to hold throughout his entire career. But if Bol Bol is able to stay relatively healthy throughout the rest of his NBA career, I do think the future is bright for him. I just think the abilities that he does possess are very special, and if he's able to get that consistent opportunity, which he is right now with the Orlando Magic, or if he ends up moving on to a different organization that's also a good opportunity for him, I just don't see how he wouldn't be able to become a decent level starting player at the very least. And maybe he can even get a little bit better than that. Now, in my opinion, I definitely think he has the abilities to become a superstar type guy, but at this point, that's not really something I'm expecting. If he becomes a decent starting level player, I definitely would say that's a major success for him personally, and that would still be a very, very valuable and very, very good player in the NBA. And I would definitely see him as the type of player that has a capability of putting up 25 plus on any given night. And if he becomes anything better than that, that's just a bonus. That would be incredible for the Orlando Magic or any other team that does end up having him at that point. Now, of course, although those are my expectations, we do need to slow down a little bit, and I'm not expecting him to get to that level within this season or within the next season. I am willing to be extremely patient with Bol Bol, as of course early on he didn't necessarily have the best start to his career, and he's finally starting to have some success with the Orlando Magic. So one thing that I do want to say is we do need to be very patient with him throughout the rest of his NBA career. But as I said, I do think he'll eventually be able to get to that level if he stays healthy. But I guess we'll see what happens going forward, not only for Bol Bol, but also for the Orlando Magic. Because I do think the Orlando Magic are finally starting to build something nice over there, and they're finally starting to build somewhat of a decent young core. And if they're able to continue on the path that they're currently on, as consistently drafting effectively alongside with bringing in young players and bringing in as many draft picks as possible, I do think the future in Orlando is actually pretty bright as well. And if they're able to hold on to Bol Bol, and if he's able to stay relatively healthy, I do think he fits in very nicely with the core they already have on the roster. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Bol Bol has the potential to be a really good player in the NBA, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.